So in prelims, what you have to remember is it's not just the content that you know or how much you know. There are other factors also like presence of mind when you are giving the test. You should use some common sense aspects which you see in your daily life also. Based on experience also, we can do some elimination of options. That is one aspect. So most people who are clearing prelims, they clear every year because not because they know more than others, because mostly because they have that skill to ensure that they increase the probability of success. Nobody can be 100% certain. I've given 5 prelims and I've cleared all 5 prelims, not because I know more than other people who did not clear prelims, but because of my approach. Based on thinking, how we think and reason out and eliminate options, we can increase our score. That way we can increase up to say 5 to 6 questions. 5 to 6 questions, if you get five more questions right, that will be how much? 10 marks. And 5 less questions in negative marking, that will be around 12 to 13 marks. That is all the difference is there only in that 13 marks. Most people will stay only in that zone. If you see last year, the zone was somewhere around say 98 to 100. Most of the people who wrote prelims were there only in that zone. What we have to do is get ahead of that curve where standard deviation. If you look at it statistically, most people will be there in one cluster. If you get ahead of the cluster, will clear. For that, one aspect is that you should know the concept. You should understand first thing. Second thing, like I said, we'll see how we can approach the question. Even if you don't know it, how is it possible to answer the question? We'll start. This question is Gangaram. Who can tell me the answer for this question? Disguised unemployment. Why? Correct. So the question basically says the person, he was working in a village along with his family in a field. He gets out of there, but still the productivity does not reduce in the field where he used to work. That means when he was there, he was not adding much productivity in the field himself. That means imagine a family of 5 people. If they are working together there, they are working maybe 4 hours a day. If one of them gets out, everybody else will work maybe 1 hour more. Still, they are not all gainfully employed. If they are working for 8 or 9 hours a day, then we can say that, okay, these people are 100% employed. As of now, they are only part-time employed, right? So there is disguised unemployment. There is unemployment. But even they don't, if you ask them whether you are employed, they would say, I am employed. Because even they don't know it, we call it as disguised unemployment. So there are lots of types of unemployment. One is this disguised unemployment. You can see frictional and cyclical unemployment also. Who can tell me what is frictional? Right. So if any of you have worked before, if you're looking to join say IAS, IPS or whatever service, here you're trying to get some skills and pass the exam and then go for another thing, right? So leaving one job and getting to another job, in between there is some time, and that is called frictional unemployment. You're leaving one and you're going to the other. That is frictional. And what is cyclical? Cyclical and seasonal are there, which are actually 2 different things. Seasonal unemployment is more related to agriculture. Yeah. So in agriculture, there will be harvest season. There will be a season where they sow the seeds. In between that, there is hardly any employment. Hardly only few people work in the field. So in that lean season, a lot of people will be unemployed. That is seasonal. Also, in many areas, there is only 1 crop or 2 crops. The 3rd crop is not there or 2nd crop is not there. In that season, people will be unemployed. That is seasonal unemployment. And cyclical unemployment is related to the whole cycle of the economy. That means there will be booms and busts in the economy. When there is a boom, there will be very high level of employment. And at some points, like in 2008, there was a recession, crisis was there. At that point, unemployment will increase. That is cyclical unemployment. We saw this is open unemployment. Open is we know that they are unemployed. Disguised is we don't know. So disguised versus open unemployment. This concept you understood, right? Anyone, if you have any doubts or you didn't understand anything, you can stop me and you can ask me. I'll try to elaborate it. Structural unemployment. The structural unemployment is very important, especially now because we are going through the fourth industrial revolution. Because of technological changes, if there is unemployment, imagine in the 80s and 90s, banks started installing ATMs and other things. It was a very new technology then. Also, a lot of people were removed from their jobs because counting and other things machines can do now. So a new technology created a structural shift in how banking sector works, and this led to mass unemployment, and this is one aspect of structural unemployment. Second thing is demand. Demand changes, people's tastes change. Imagine a company which manufactures, for instance, Kodak film. Nobody uses that now. Most people use their phones, or if they buy digital cameras, right? So the whole technology, the whole sector is gone. That photography sector is gone. Nowadays they don't use it. Similarly, handicrafts. People's tastes have changed. They don't use handmade goods. Most people will go for, say, some synthetic goods or something else. So because tastes have changed, the sector, another sector has boomed. This sector does not have the demand and same market. This leads to unemployment of people who depend on that sector. That is structural unemployment. So we saw open and disguised, structural, frictional, cyclical. Underemployment is what? Desired pay. Pay is only one aspect of employment. Correct. Yeah, based on his qualifications or capability. Imagine a person has done, say, an MBA, or he's capable of doing a better job, but he's doing a peon's job. Recently there was a lot of things were like this were in news. In UP, a lot of people who have done PhD also applied for a peon's job. This is underemployment. So you have seen that question. If you have any doubts in that question, next question. How many of you have answered this question? 2-3 people, okay. So this is a concept-based question. Labor force includes both employed and unemployed persons. Here, the definition of labor force means employed and unemployed. But if you don't know the definition of what is unemployed here, then you cannot answer this question. Unemployment in India and mostly in economics anywhere, it is defined not based on people who do not have a job. Two conditions have to be satisfied if you are to declare a person as unemployed. One is he or she should be willing to work. Second is they should not be able to get work. So only when both conditions are satisfied, they are said to be unemployed. Imagine in India, labor force participation rate of women is 27%. Unemployment rate of women is very low. Why? Because most of the women who have done their education, they are not looking for work. Unemployment rate is very low because we are not considering them as unemployed, because one of the conditions for unemployment has not been satisfied. They get married and most people, they are not allowed to work by their in-laws or something. Because of some social factors, they are not able to work. Because of that, they are not looking for work. So you understood the definition of unemployed here, right? Unemployed means they should be looking for work and they should not be able to get work. Only then we call them as unemployed. Labor force includes both employed, people who are looking for work and get work, and unemployed, looking for work and don't get work. So that is labor force. Labor force participation rate is defined as number of persons in the labor force per 1,000 persons. That means overall, if there are 1,000 people, you divide the people who are both employed and unemployed divided by total population of the country. That will give you labor force participation rate. Overall labor force participation rate for India is around, say, 50 to 53. So women's labor force participation rate is 27%. That means out of 100 people, 52 people in India are working. Others will be like, say, children, old, elders, and some women also. Because of this, it is only at 52, 53%. In other countries, advanced economies, it is higher. It goes up to, say, 75. And do you know about demographic dividend? Do you think labor force participation rate increases or reduces because of demographic dividend? it increases because the number of old people and number of children will be lesser compared to people who are in the age group where they can work. But it is not necessary that just because people in that age group are more, it will lead to more employment. They should have the necessary skills, they should be healthy, and a lot of other conditions should be satisfied. Economy should be booming and able to get them into employment. That is also necessary. So third question is worker population ratio is defined as the number of persons employed per 1,000 persons. So this statement is talking about worker population ratio. Here we are only looking at who is already employed. Worker here means somebody who is employed, looking for work and has got to work. That is a worker. Worker population ratio is people who are employed in the economy divided by total population in the economy. What is the difference between LFPR and worker population rate? Yeah, unemployed is the difference. That means people who are unemployed are also part of labor force participation rate. So based on this, you can answer this question. What is the answer for this? The answer is the same thing they have defined. What is labor force planning commission documents have defined it. In any country, it is the same definition. Even IMF and other World Bank reports, if you see, same definition will be there. Next question. Correct, correct. That is true. That means more people are looking for job, but number of jobs are not increasing commensurately. Because of this, unemployment rate will increase. Next question. MG Narega. This question is about MG Narega. So, who can answer this question? It provides legal guarantee for 100 days of employment to adult members in every rural household. Is it correct? It is correct, right? So is there any condition that they should be, below poverty line or something like that? No condition. This is not such a scheme where here only the condition is that they should be a rural household. That is the only condition. That is first statement is true. Second, since 2014, women beneficiaries from MG Narega are more than 50%. Is it true? Third one, is there a steady rise in female labor force participation since its inception? That means actually in recent times labor force participation of women has reduced. It has both say positive and negative. Based on analysis, we have taken both positive and negative factors which have led to this. Positive factor is that more women are going for secondary and higher education. Because of that, they are not coming into the labor force. Negative aspect is like social pressures. Because of this, they are not coming into the labor force. So this third statement is wrong. Yeah, you could say, yeah. Yeah, it has increased. Rural labor force participation over, if you take, you could say it has increased. But if you, it is better if you, this is a general trend that we are drawing based on what we have read in newspapers. If a report has given it, usually they'll ask only in such a case the question will be asked. Then you'll have read it in current affairs or something. That way, if the question was like that, I would mark that it is correct because we are talking about feminization of agriculture, feminization of poverty, and migration of men from villages to cities. More women are there in villages; they have to work. Because of all these trends, it would be correct. So, answer is B. That is 1 and 2 are correct. So, some statistics are given. Actually, MG Narega as a scheme gives 50% reservation to women as beneficiaries. But more than 50% are there. Recently, it is around 56-57% women are beneficiaries of this scheme. And in some areas where there is drought, like northern Karnataka, there was drought. At that point of time, the government of India has allowed state governments to provide 150 days of work instead of just 100 days. Because they cannot find employment elsewhere, they can get extra 50 days. Even in tribal areas where it is difficult to get work elsewhere, they have allowed this 100 to be 150 days. So the third statement talks about the same thing, that in recent times it has reduced. Labor force participation rate of women has reduced. Major reason that Planning Commission and NITI Aayog have said is that more women are going for secondary and higher education. This question is basically like a factual question. Usually if you don't know, you have never heard of PISA portal, imagine, then it is very difficult to answer this type of question. If it is based on a concept or based on some understanding, then it is possible that you can eliminate some options. Otherwise, these type of questions will always be there in the exam. Around 10 to 15 questions will be like this. So to answer this type of questions, you have to be in touch with current affairs and continuously get yourself updated, and you should also revise that. You should make some notes out of it and revise it before prelims. Then it is easier. See, prelims is basically a recognition test. You don't have to recall everything and write like in writing in mains. If you look at PISA, you just register it in your mind. When you look at it again, you should be able to recall it. That is actually easier compared to mains, where you have to recall the whole thing and write at the right time in the right context you have to write. So that way it is easier to remember this. If you look at PISA, when you read this, say here we're talking about the say answer is B, right? Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. You just make a link in your mind that okay, this is related to this. Somehow you will link it here. And because if you revise it just before prelims, say 1 week before prelims, 1 week before prelims is very important because it is a recognition test. You can easily recognize, people memorize whole lists because it is only recognition there. If there will be a question, right? Usually every alternate year there will be a question like which institution gives which report, IMF gives which report, UNDP gives which report. People memorize the list of say 130, 150 reports and which organization gives it. You don't have to recall it. You just think, okay, this is probably true because I feel it is true. Because you just look at the whole list just before prelims, you can recall it and recognize it. Similar thing you can do for such factual type of questions. For them, like I said, 1 week before prelims is very important. And you should have it organized and keep all such questions at one place so that you could easily revise it. If you make small note of it, in say 5 to 6 sheets, all these things at one place, it will be very easy for revision. So this PISA portal is basically under Awas Yojana, DAY NULM, DAY, Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana, National Urban Livelihoods Mission. It is used to provide finance to people who are building their homes in cities. So for easier finance, they have created this PISA portal. Other things they have given in this explanation is about the scheme itself, which you might already know that building houses for everyone is, housing for all is a goal of the present government. Next question. Which of the following are components of capital account? What is the other account other than capital account? Current account. What are these two a part of? Balance of payments, right? So how do you differentiate something from current account and capital account? What would you put? What is the criteria to differentiate between the two? Correct. So if you are getting, imagine remittances every month from say Saudi Arabia, people working in Gulf and USA everywhere, that will come to current account or capital account? That will come to current account. So frequent things that we are getting or frequent things we are buying, say crude oil every week we pay, every month we pay, for that will come, everything will come under current account. Capital account is like windfall gains. Imagine we sell say tanks or some helicopters to Maldives, Vietnam, other countries. We are selling it at once and we are getting a bulk of money at once. That will come to capital account. Similarly, if say we are buying something, we bought aircraft from France, right? Rafale. So for that, whatever we pay, that also will come under capital account because we pay at once. We don't pay like monthly. Correct. We import and we paid, right? Everything will come under it. Import, export, even invisibles like services provided to other countries or services we took. So balance of payments will have capital and current account. All imports, exports, earnings and expenditure will be divided into these two based on whether it is short term or long term. Now look at this. Foreign loans. This is, we take, it's like every month or one time. One time, right? Loan will be in like say millions or billions of dollars. We take it at once. Because of that, it will come under capital account. FDI, here also it will come at once because of that capital account. Private remittances, current account. That is because they keep sending it. Every month, based on their salary, they keep sending it money to their home, right? What about external commercial borrowing? Capital account. What is external commercial borrowing? Correct. First, it is external, that means we are borrowing from outside the country. It is second, it is commercial, that means government is not borrowing the money. Some other private entities are borrowing money. Imagine Infosys there. Infosys wants to borrow money from USA because US banks are giving loan at say 3 or 4%. In India, it is around 8 to 9%. So this borrowing will be called as external commercial borrowing, and once they borrow it, it will be for 15 years, 20 years, loan will be there. That is why it comes under capital account. Imagine after 15 years they pay back this loan. That will also come under capital account because it will be like a capital expenditure at that time. This is capital receipt. So you understood current and capital account, right? Interest paid will come under current account because it is paid frequently and every month, right? Because of that, it will come under the current account. So the same thing they have given here. Current account, capital account, there is one more thing called something else is there where not balancing. Imagine actually this has to balance always. Balance of payments will become zero in the end. Third category is called omissions and errors, correct. Omissions and errors. That means if we are unable to record the exact nature of how much revenue has come or it is going out, then sometimes it will not balance out. It's not that important, but just for information's sake, a third category is there. It is called omissions and errors. This is done, right? Oh. So consider the following regarding India's foreign exchange reserves. What are India's foreign exchange reserves? Correct. So no country has everything we need for say manufacture or services. India does not have crude, for example. We buy it from Saudi Arabia. When we buy it, we have to pay in their currency or dollar or whatever they ask. So they ask dollar and we pay in dollar. So for that, we should have foreign currency to pay every month for crude in dollar. That is called foreign exchange. And we should have a reserve of foreign exchange. How do we build up a reserve? By exporting our own goods and asking dollar for it. We build up our own reserve of foreign exchange. Using this, we buy whatever we want through that dollar. So it is not just dollar. In general, we talk about dollar, but foreign exchange reserves will have multiple things. One is this foreign currency asset will have dollar, pound, and other now renminbi, whatever hard currencies are there, which have some level of acceptability around the world. Those things are a part of foreign currency assets also there. But gold is not mentioned here anywhere. So here I'll tell you a tip. See, when they have given a word called only here, then the probability against this statement being true is high. That means they have narrowed it down very specifically. It is very easy to disprove this statement. If you just bring another thing, also being a part of foreign exchange reserves, you can disprove this statement easily. So that way you have to think whether it is a broad statement or a narrow statement when you are trying to answer the question. This statement is a very narrow statement because they are saying only these two things are a part of foreign exchange reserves. But can you think similarly whenever a statement based question is given, can I disprove this using something else? How easy is it to disprove it? If they say among others, these two are also part of foreign exchange reserves, it is very difficult to disprove that statement because other things may be there. Or if they have not given only here, then also it is difficult because other things may be there, they are not talking about it. Because they have given only as a word here, that becomes, probability will be more on the side of this statement being wrong rather than correct. We cannot conclusively say this is always wrong, but we are only talking about probability here. You understood what I'm saying, right? The foreign exchange reserve of India is on a steady rise in the last half decade. So they're talking about a graph here. Foreign exchange reserve is like this. So in general, anywhere already we saw one such type of statement where it is a steady. Usually these graphs, if you see anywhere in the economic survey, there is no graph which is completely steady. This is also based on your experience of looking at graphs in your NCERT books or economic survey. You can say that hardly any graph is steady in world economy. So based on your thinking, your using of common sense based on what I have read before, you could say this is probably wrong, because there are always instances where it will dip and then it will again rise, right? So even if you don't know the answer for this question, you could say because this statement is very narrow and because this thing is probably not true. This, if both statements, if you are not sure, only in the end when you are not attempted sufficient number of questions, then you can do such things. Or it is better to eliminate. Imagine one of them you are sure that this thing is wrong, then eliminate wherever two is there, only one, either one or both, neither one nor two will be correct, right? So among them, usually I attempt, whenever I eliminate two options, I'll definitely attempt that question, because the odds are always in your favor, because 5 out of 10 questions will be correct, only 3, whatever you are losing out of that 5 remaining questions will be always less than what you are gaining from the 5 correct questions. So my suggestion is, if you eliminate 2 options, definitely attempt the question. If you eliminate only one option, then don't attempt it, depending upon how many you attempted in the end. If you think you attempted very less, then you have to take that risk. Otherwise, it's not necessary. So answer is neither one nor two. Like we saw that intuitively we can think that okay, gold is there, she said, so it is very difficult to it is very easy to disprove this statement. That is first thing. Second thing, like I said, hardly any graph in the real world is a straight line or steady. So some other things are there, like foreign exchange, like gold SDRs, reverse tranche position. These SDRs and RTP, I think we will not have time to explain these things, but I'll just try to explain it in short. RTP is basically what India can borrow from IMF without paying interest or any service fee. So SDR is like, it is the neutral foreign currency asset that India has been allotted from, say, every country will be allotted some SDRs from IMF. Imagine we need dollar immediately. We can sell this SDR, exchange it for dollar, or we need some other pound. Same SDR can be used for exchange for pound. This is the functional aspect of what is SDR and RTP. If you need, you can read more details on how IMF works based on this concept. Basically, RTP is this only, that we can borrow up to 25% of our money that we have in IMF. We can borrow our quota. Every country will have a quota in IMF. So 25% of our quota we can borrow without paying interest. That is this RTP. So this question is also about foreign trade. Which of the following statement correctly describes the term of balance of payment? Balance of payment is within the country or country to, say, other countries outside world, right? So based on this, you eliminate these two options already. So RBI with financial institutions is within the country. Record that represents a country's economic transactions within the country is also wrong. Based on this, you already eliminated. Then between C and D, account that summarizes countries' all economic transactions with other countries in visible items. Here, see, this is an arrow statement. Compared to this, first they have said visible items. They have narrowed it down to only visible items. Second thing, they have only said other countries. What if it is an international body? That is not considered by this statement, right? Consider this statement. Economic exchange of both visible and invisible items of a country with the rest of the world. Anything can be there in the rest of the world. So if you don't know anything about it other than this thing that, okay, it is with external world, outside the world, choose the most broadest statement among the remaining two. That will, there will be higher probability of getting the answer right if the statement is broad rather than narrow. So option is D. Three main, So BOP has current account, capital account. Official reserve transactions are like whether we take a loan from, say, IMF, that will come under this official reserve. SDRs and other things, whatever we take and give to other international institutions will come under this official EDU transactions. FDI is preferred over FPI. What is difference between FDI and FPI? Correct. FPI is short term, FDI is long term is one aspect. In real terms, like how does FDI work? Correct. So that is the understanding that you need to answer questions based on FDI FPI. When FDI comes into India, imagine Walmart is investing in India. What they do is they set up the whole thing and they create their logistics and they open their shop in India. That means they are here to do business forever. That means they will not think about a closing date. FPI means portfolio investor. You know what is a portfolio, right? Basically, imagine in USA, in developing countries, usually economic returns are lower, around say 4%, 5%. But investors in that country want to invest in a country like India where returns are very high, 12%, 13% returns they can return. So what they do is basically they buy shares. They will create a portfolio. They'll buy 10 sets of shares. Each share will be say 2%, 1% of the company they buy. This is to manage the risk. Even if one company goes bust, somewhere else they get some profit. This is called a portfolio. Foreign portfolio investors invest in the whole portfolio and they are only looking for profit and taking back their money as soon as possible. This is their motivation and this. So because of this reason, it will automatically go away in some time. Sometimes sooner, sometimes later. If a better opportunity arises somewhere, say in Africa, they'll take out this money and invest it in Africa. So this is the difference between FDI and FPI. FDI, they are trying to do business here. They are establishing their factories or whatever. Yeah, management is already there. So they are not looking to take out their money anytime soon. So this is one of the reasons why we want people to invest in the country and build up its businesses, logistics chains or whatever it is. Because of that, see, FDI helps in technology transfer. If Walmart comes into India, their logistics chains and their technology, whatever they're using. Technology, if you interpret broadly, even managerial techniques that they bring into India, whatever comes, they will employ people from India also, and then they go to other companies. They bring their knowledge and experience to other companies. So this will create, multiple ideas will flow, and because of this, technology in India will flourish. That is first thing. FPI outflows can create unstable macroeconomic political conditions is also correct. Like I said, imagine interest rate hike in US happens, and because of that they feel that okay, investing in US will lead to more better interest. 25 basis points, that is 0.25% higher interest. They feel that the amount of risk that we are taking in India is not worth it if we are getting more 25 basis points more in US. So they take out their money and put it back in US. So any change external to India may also impact this FPI. But FDI in general is not impacted as long as some serious policy changes happen within India. FDI is hardly impacted. Third statement is doesn't create productive asset directly. That is also correct because you understood the concept. FPI affects foreign exchange rate as well as domestic money supply. Is this true? Why? Correct. And when it goes back, rupee becomes weaker. That is answering why it affects foreign exchange. Why does it affect domestic money supply? Correct. So this money is coming where? Imagine it is coming to Infosys. They are buying 1% shares of Infosys. So that means they are buying it from some buyer in India. He is getting money. He will not get money in dollar. It will go to RBI and RBI will convert it into rupee and then it will give it to him. And he will start investing or buying or whatever it is. He will start spending more money, whoever is getting this money. So that is why whenever money comes into India in form of any other currency, actually domestic currency, domestic money supply will also increase because they will convert it because they cannot spend dollar in India. They'll convert it into rupee and they'll spend it. That is why domestic money supply will also increase. So what is the answer for this? All statements are correct. D. So same thing they've called FPI as fair weather friend. When all is well with Indian economy, more FPI will come into India. But something goes wrong, whether with Indian economy or something else happens somewhere else in the world also, there is impact on FPI, but not on FDI. So next question. Which of the following is likely to happen due to strong rupee in the international market? A strong rupee is a benefit for the exporter or importer? Importer. So lower landed cost of crude oil, because crude oil we are importing. This should be correct. Boosting of exports driven sectors, these two are actually opposites. So only one of them should be correct. And once we know that one is correct and three is wrong, one should be correct, these two are gone. And three is wrong, so this is also one. Only C is remaining, right? So you don't even need to look at this statement. And then once you choose C, then you can read it. Upgradation of external credit ratings will also happen. Why does it happen? Because if imagine for crude oil, whatever we are paying, earlier we used to pay more, now we pay less. Because of this, our fiscal deficit and other things, whatever deficits are there, current account deficit, fiscal deficit, other macroeconomic parameters will improve. Yeah. For current account deficit, what you are saying is correct. If you look at other things like exports, also take that also into consideration. For current account deficit, it is correct. But for fiscal deficit, it will not impact it. If crude is cheaper, what would happen is businesses will invest, will have more money to invest. Because of that, more taxes are collected. Because of that, fiscal deficit will reduce. The amount of money spent and money raised, yeah. So money raised through taxes and other things, the difference will be lesser and deficit will reduce. Because deficit will reduce, it will, credit rating will improve for India. What I was saying only about imports, if you see theoretically, what I was saying is correct. But in practical times, what he said is correct, that both imports and exports are affected together. Because of that, current account deficit doesn't change much, only fiscal deficit is correct. Correct. So current account deficit will not give us much positive if crude oil price goes down. So you understood this concept, right? How crude oil price impacts all these things. I mean, because of strong rupee in the international market, how these things are impacted. See, when you say strong rupee, weak rupee, you have to imagine a marketplace. There is a marketplace for currencies. Imagine that, see, in the world economy, there are a lot of countries are there. There will be a marketplace. Imagine like a warehouse. For simplicity, I'm just giving. People will come with rupee here. They want dollar. People will come with dollar. They want, say, something else, Japanese yen or something. Basically, the amount of supply of a particular currency with respect to their demand will determine their exchange rate. Only these two things matter. More people want dollar because dollar is accepted everywhere and they can pay it for crude oil and other things. Because of that, dollar will always be stable compared to other currencies. But more people don't want rupee because it is not a hard currency as of yet, and they can pay rupee only in India. So if they're buying something from India, then they can pay it. Because of that, demand for rupee is not as high as a dollar. Because of that, dollar is at a higher pedestal compared to the rupee. This is how international market in currencies work. And this is because of that, stronger rupee, weaker rupee, everything will happen. Only that imaginary warehouse. You can imagine for any market, demand and supply will matter. Similarly, even for currency market, same thing will matter. So this is a history question. You can answer this. What are the reasons for educated Indians to become the best propagators of militant nationalism? They were already educated, but were they getting jobs? They were either underemployed or unemployed. These two reasons were already there. Other than that, education in modern thought and politics and world history. How did education in world history matter? Correct. So there were a lot of French Revolution, American Revolution, and their ideals, philosophies, all these ideas started flowing into India, and because of this, a lot of inspiration was there in India. Can you name some people who were inspired by this? Right. You could say even Henry Vivian Desrosiers, he was specifically inspired by yeah, so French Revolution. So that way, if it is a mains question, you have to give examples like that. That then you'll get better marks. Even though you understand the concept, you have to give examples like that. So this simple question you can answer D, right? No, modern in the sense you're talking about modern in a general terms, but theoretically modern has a particular definition. Modern means based on individual rights and based on science, rather than say superstition and other things, right? So now what you are saying is presently what is considered as modern in the present age. At that point of time, even militancy was considered modern if it is to for the right cause. That is based on Western Enlightenment movement. You can see that there was fight for individual rights rather than clergy and other whatever rights of some traditional rights were there based on feudalism and other aspects. So compared to that, if they are fighting the good fight, that means for a good cause, even if violence was accepted, that was modern thought and politics was based on that. So the same thing they have given: underemployment, unemployment, and this thing. So economic radicalism was reflected in which of these things? This Faizpur also is in 1936 only, 36 session. These two are actually almost together. So those two are already there because the election manifesto of 36 also they wanted to bring radical reforms like tenancy reforms, and also even they spoke about living wage at that time. Even now we don't have uh, living wage concept. So radical reforms were suggested. Even this working committee resolution of 1945, they gave some aspect in that also. For instance, right to form trade unions was spoken about in this 45. So you could see here what reforms they advocated: reduction in rent, scaling down of rural debts, cheaper credit. Can you tell me what is the difference between minimum wage and living wage? Fair wage is also there. These three, this can be a separate question itself. What is minimum wage, fair wage, and living wage? Minimum wage is for any occupation. It doesn't matter what it is. Imagine the state of Karnataka says minimum wage is this much, say 300 rupees per day is minimum wage. Below that, whatever the work may be, you cannot employ any person below that. Fair wage is not in general for every occupation. Particular occupation will be chosen. For a teacher, minimum wage is 15,000 per month. This will be chosen, and for that is called fair wage. Fair wage for a particular occupation. Minimum wage is in general bottom line for any occupation. And living wage is not based on market conditions or anything. Living wage is basically, considering the basic needs of a human being, how much is required for food, clothing, shelter, education, health, other aspects, everything is considered. Depending upon the country's development level, there will be a limit on what we consider as minimum basic standard of living. And based on that, a wage will be decided. So in India, say for example, 20,000 per month can be considered as living wage, considering health, education, all amenities, everything. This is just an example. There is no calculation so far about what will be fair wage. So this is the concept of this minimum wage, living wage, and fair wage. So this, any questions? Next question. What is monetary policy committee? Correct. So they decide what should be the rate of inflation. For instance, as of now, the target given by government is 4 plus or minus 2%. In that range only it should be there. Monetary policy committee, based on the present level of inflation, will decide the interest rates of the RBI. Based on that, the RBI will implement policies, and that is the function of monetary policy committee. Here the question is about the structure of Monetary Policy Committee. Out of 6, 3 members of MPC are to be appointed by central government with 4 years tenure. So far, the statement is correct. In general, what happens in exam is, when we read so far that statement is correct, usually our mind will become, biased. Probably this statement is correct. You'll think that, but most people don't read this last part, that they will be eligible for reappointment, but they are not eligible for reappointment. Once you see 3 or 4 things, 4 pieces of information which are correct, then there is a bias in our mind that this statement is correct, and we'll read it, but we'll not put sufficient attention on that part, that to think that okay, this whole statement becomes wrong because of that part. So this is a trap that usually in every test they will set such traps. You have to identify whether all pieces of information given in a particular statement are correct. Second statement, RBI governor enjoys a veto power in MPC. No. So there is, RBI governor will have a casting vote. That means if there is a tie between the members, 6 members, then RBI governor will vote. Otherwise, he doesn't vote. Casting vote is similar to what is there with speaker, chairman, deputy chairman, right? The minimum quorum of the committee shall be 50% of its members. Is this correct or wrong? Minimum quorum is 4 members out of 6, so it is not 50%, it is more than that, so it is wrong. First statement is wrong, here second is wrong, third is wrong, so answer is none of the above. Next question. Which of the following statements are correct about FPI? So earlier there were a lot of categories. Qualified foreign investors were there, and FII, foreign institutional investors. If a company was investing rather than an individual, we used to call them FII, institutional investors. So all these different things were there. Recently a restructuring was done. Recently there is only FPI or FDI. FPI means, actually this question is, whatever they have given is correct. FPI means, and in this portfolio, you understood portfolio concept, right? In this portfolio, in any company they cannot own more than 10% of the shares. Maximum they can own is 10% of the shares. If they want to buy, FPI wants to buy, Infosys shares for profit, they cannot buy more than 10% of Infosys shares. Similarly, for every company it is 10%. All FPIs collectively cannot hold more than 24% of paid up capital of an Indian company. This means what? That means among Infosys shares, Infosys cannot sell its shares more than 24% of its shares to FPIs alone. That is from the perspective of the Indian company. First one is from the perspective of the investor. You understood these two, right? Anybody has any doubt with these two? Third one, in India, FPIs are permitted to invest in government securities. So in India, there is no such restriction that they shouldn't invest. They are allowed to invest in government securities. What are government securities? Can anyone tell me? Treasury bill is one type of government security. What is it used for? I mean, why do they give government security? That is true, but it is only a peripheral aspect of it. What is the basic function of government security? Correct. Yeah, you could say that government is borrowing money, and when government borrows money, they sell this bond. They say that I owe you this much money, and they give that bond. That is government security. It basically is a loan taken by government. That's it. That is the basic function of government security, that anybody who buys government security is actually giving a loan to the government. So the same thing, answer is D, that is all statements are correct. Explanation is given. I'm not sure about limitations, but they can buy government securities. That part I'm not sure if there is any limitation. Small finance banks are registered under which act? Who has answered this question? Wow, what is the answer? Companies Act, right? If the question was small finance banks are licensed under which act? Correct. So the question, whatever what the keyword is in the question will matter when they have given like this. It is important once you choose the answer, you can read the question again. How much time is it taking for you to solve the paper, 100 questions? Around 1.5 hours only, right? So my advice is, once you mark, imagine you mark say Companies Act, you make sure you read the question again, ensure that there is no, whether not or negation type of question is there or something like that. So that usually in general, regardless of how many prelims you have written, you have cleared, or how many tests you have written, everybody makes mistakes under pressure in the exam. Around 2 to 3 mistakes is common for everyone because it is human under that condition. But if you can eliminate only those 2 to 3 mistakes, your score will increase by 6 to 7 marks, and that is a lot in the exam. So if you can just reread the question, especially if you feel it is very easy, there is a chance that you have done. There is a chance that it might be a mistake. So small finance banks, about that they have given. Small finance bank is a niche bank created specifically for the MSMEs. Basically, they give small amount of loans to people, and it is for unorganized sector, rural aspect. This niche banks, specific sector-wise niche banks were recommended by Nachiket More Committee to increase financial inclusion in India. So this is one such bank. Niche means particular aspect will be focused by the bank. Only that business aspect will be the whole function of the bank will be based on that only. Yeah, correct. Payment bank is also a niche bank. Correct. That is also correct. Every bank is registered. Not registered, but licensed under banking regulation. Registration will depend upon whether it is. If it is a government bank, it can be created by Parliamentary Act also. Next question. You know what is insolvency and bankruptcy code, right? What is insolvency? If a company liquidation is one of the stage of solving. If it does not work out, then it will lead to liquidation. Insolvency is basically the company is not running under profit. Some lenders are there which are given loans to this company, and they want their money back. So they could ask for liquidation, or this IBC is there. Under that, some IBBI will be there. Insolvency Bankruptcy Board of India is there. They will look into whether this company can be salvaged, can be bring business back to this company so that they will become profitable and then pay back the loan. If that is not possible, then they will go for liquidation. Liquidation basically means, imagine a company like, take any example, Infosys or something. If it wants to liquidate, basically all its assets will be sold. Imagine it has land, buildings, other chairs, tables, computers, everything. They will be sold separately. Whatever money is coming out of it will be given to the lenders, whoever banks and others who have lent money to them. That is called it is a process of, there is a process for this that is called insolvency. And insolvency is important especially in the context of limited liability. When Infosys was formed, the partners would have signed a limited liability partnership. That means if this company goes bust, if Infosys goes under, that means it does not generate profits, then the law or government cannot take the assets of individual partners, only what is under company name. That means property is owned directly by the company. Assets created only for the company, that properties will be taken and liquidated and given back to the creditors. That means liability, if one partner does something wrong, that means liability of other partners will not be there. Only that partner will be liable for that particular thing also. This is called limited liability partnership. This is a very common, recently most of the companies are registered as LLPs. And because of that, a lot of people will go for insolvency, because even if the company goes bust, their wealth is not affected. Even if somebody has done something wrong, they will not be affected, and they can easily come out of it, get some money out of it also. After loans are paid, remaining thing will be given to the partners, and they can invest it in some other venture. For Kingfisher, actually, he has taken 9,000 crore loan, right? If we liquidate it, we'll get hardly 2,000 crores from that. So we'll be at a loss. And he, limited liability is only until he does not break loss. If it is because of market risk, because market is not functioning well, Kingfisher did not succeed, then if he has not done nothing wrong, then no problem. But what he did was he showed that I'm taking this 9,000 crores for something, and he used it for something else. Because of this reason, it is misappropriation is a legal violation. Because of that, we'll hold them accountable. So information utility, why is it important for insolvency? So basically, people in general earlier, they used to take a loan from say SBI and they used to run that company. After a while, when the money is over, they used to take another loan from Axis Bank from the same company. Because Axis Bank and SBI does not have communication with each other, they used to take loans from every bank for same property that they have. This is just one example how if the people don't know that they are insolvent, they keep giving loans to this company continuously, right? That is just one example why information utility is important. If this information utility is there, before giving any large amount of loan or any loan for that matter, they can just consult with say this IU, information utility, whether this particular company is there. This can be a part of their due diligence that they make before giving out loan, saying that whether other banks have given a loan for the same property. So that is just one example. A lot of applications like that are there. If we have a clear database on what is the present economic status or financial status of a particular company. That is why all the financial data will be stored. Borrowings, default, security interests, everything will be present in that information utility. All stakeholders, like say even IBBI as a regulator, creditors who are crediting who are giving loans, even shareholders, they can come to know clearly what is the present status of the company. That is why IU is important. National E-Governance Services Limited is India's first information utility for bankruptcy cases. It has registered itself as information utility, and it will hold a database for all the companies for bankruptcy cases. It will hold that information. So NESL, this is also true. So using conceptual understanding, you can think of saying, okay, one is true, but second one, without knowing the fact, you cannot answer that. So based on that, you can eliminate two and still answer that question. There will still be a good probability that it will be correct. So public credit registry is only for banks, right? If bank is going to give a loan, that example that I gave. But this is for every stakeholder. Imagine default, they've already done a default. So imagine they are going for say some other lender, which is not a bank. Is actually another financial investor or someone who wants to give money. He doesn't get access to that banking database. This is for every stakeholder. Imagine the regulator is there. The regulator is investigating a case. They also sometimes they cannot get access to the banking database. There will be some other privacy, other concerns. So this is open. This is created specifically to address insolvency issues, not only for that credit issue. Credit issue is one example only. So in this, both statements are true. That is what information utility does, and India's first information utility is NESL. So this is a simple question. You can answer this. What is the answer for this? What is the difference between quantitative measure of RBI and qualitative measure of RBI? If RBI is trying to control the money supply, the quantity of money supply in the economy, that means how much money is there, then it will become a quantitative measure. Instead of that, if RBI is trying to control quality, where this money is flowing, that means should it flow to a particular sector? Imagine it wants more money to go to automobile sector because it will rekindle steel and other whatever inputs are going into the automobile sector. Then it will become based on particular quality of where most of the money is going. That is a qualitative measure. Imagine reserve ratio. Variable reserve ratios are like cash reserve ratio as of now it is say 4%. If they increase or reduce, the amount of money in the whole economy will increase or reduce. That is quantitative or qualitative? Quantitative, because the quantity of the money is impacted and not particularly where it is flowing because of reserve ratio. Think of open market operations. Open market operation is basically buying and selling of government bonds in the open market. If they buy more government bonds, more cash is flooded into the economy. If they sell more government bonds, more cash is taken out from the economy. So here also quantity of money in the economy is affected and not particularly where the money is flowing. Bank rate, more money is either going towards RBI or away from RBI here also. That means same quantity. Consumer credit regulation. What is the meaning of consumer credit regulation? Because you eliminated all three things. Even if you don't know what it is, you can just mark it. Because even if you don't know it, because you know the other three things are quantitative, the last one should be not quantitative, right? So basically what here they do is consumer credit regulation. They can say they can set some limits for a vehicle loan. Earlier, imagine 8 lakhs was maximum that you can borrow for a vehicle loan. Now they want to increase more money going towards automobile sector. They will increase it to 12 lakhs. Now you can borrow up to 12 lakhs for vehicle loan. Earlier, whatever loan you applied, you were getting only 75%. That is margin requirement. That means if you apply for 10 lakhs, you will get 7.5 only. It doesn't matter what it is. So now they reduce that margin requirement to 15%. Now if you apply for say 10 lakhs, you get more than 8.5 lakhs you get. That means you are more willing to buy that vehicle now because you don't have to shell out more money from your pocket to buy that. So that means more money will flow into automobile sector now because RBI has tweaked these policies. So the quality of money flow, depending upon which sector it wants to go to, RBI can control that using qualitative measures. SLR also, actually you can consider it as reserve ratio also, but that is not going for a particular sector, right? Once government gets that money, imagine they buy government bonds, government gets that money, and government can invest it anywhere. RBI cannot control where the government will use it. They can use it for MG Naraga wages, or they can use it for say populist schemes or whatever it is. There is no control on quality of expenditure, right? Mostly SLR is actually mostly government bonds only. Other things are there theoretically that they can keep gold and other things, but most people don't keep all those things. 99% of SLR is government bonds. So quantitative and qualitative tools. This is a very basic and very important question. This is a repeated question in prelims. You have to know which are the qualitative tools of RBI, which are the quantitative tools of RBI, and how they work. What is the difference between them? You have to be able to identify between them also. Next question. It is with respect to mutual funds. Can anyone tell me what is a mutual fund? Okay, full of, it is a good description of a mutual fund. But why do we need a mutual fund? What function does it perform? We have bonds, we have shares. Why mutual funds? Correct. So imagine someone like me. I don't know much about say share market or bond. What shares I have to buy? If I have some money to invest, I know only few companies and I don't know how they're performing, and I'm just a layman. So what I do is, if so many such laymen are there who want to invest, they have the money, but they don't have the expertise. What they do is they invest their money in a mutual fund. This mutual fund has recruited some experts on the market. How the market performs, they'll know. Their job is only to take other people's money and invest it in the market. They will have a portfolio similar to this. They will invest it in a bunch of shares, and that is called one fund. One mutual fund is a bunch of shares. Some 15 to 20 shares will be there in that portfolio, and you buy the whole thing, whole fund you buy. That means you buy the whole 15 shares in one unit. One unit of mutual fund is the whole portfolio. So what happens is, this person, he will keep track of how each of the share is performing. If one of the share doesn't perform well, he will take it out and put another share. You will be shielded from all these things. You don't have to bother about how each one is performing. They will promise you saying, okay, will give you 12%, 15% returns. You will get around that much, sometimes more, sometimes little less. Some risks will be there because they cannot control the market. But only if you get some profit, you will get some share out of it. Because of that, you can trust. Common interest will be there between the two, and you can trust. This is called a mutual fund. It is a professionally managed investment, and they are actually intermediaries, and they are not investing their own money. They are investing other people's money who do not have sufficient say information or knowledge about the market. The function that it performs is bringing professional expertise into investments. Now consider the question. A mutual fund is a professionally managed investment fund that pools money from many investors to purchase securities. Is it correct? Correct. What are securities? It is not just shares that they buy. They can buy bonds or whatever investment is there, they can buy. So this first statement is correct. Open-ended mutual funds issue a fixed number of shares, while closed-ended funds can issue any number of shares. So there is a difference between open-ended and closed-ended mutual funds. If this mutual fund company releases a limited number of units like this, saying that Infosys, Wipro and other companies are there, but this units will be limited edition, like we'll give you only say 10,000 units. If you buy them, nobody else can buy them from us later. They have to only buy from this person who has already bought it. It's like, imagine a limited edition bike is released. 10,000 bikes are released, and if you buy them, nobody else can buy them once all those are sold. That is this closed-end mutual fund. Open-end means they keep on releasing, like normal bike, which is not limited edition. They keep on releasing any number of units people can keep on buying. So now look at this. Fixed number of shares, while closed-end funds can issue any number of shares. They have given reverse of what actually happens. So second one is false. Closed-end mutual fund shares do not trade on stock exchange and are less liquid. There also they have given reverse. So imagine that bike analogy only. If it is a limited edition bike, will it have more value if you buy it later, or will it have less value? More value, right? Because it is not available anywhere else in the market, they'll have to buy it from you. In the secondary market, it is more valuable. Similarly, closed-end mutual funds, which is not available elsewhere, is more valuable in secondary market, so they are sold in secondary market. When open-ended mutual funds are there, why would they buy it from secondary market? They wouldn't. They directly buy it from this mutual fund company. Because of that, they are not traded in the secondary market. Secondary market is basically like second-hand market, where people will buy the shares first from the company or bonds first from the company, and then they sell it online. Where secondary market, BSE, NSE and all the stock exchanges are secondary markets. So you understood what is open-ended and closed-ended mutual fund, right? Anybody has any doubt with respect to this? Open-ended, yeah. Open-ended basically means this company, mutual fund company, can keep on selling any number of units of this fund. That means they'll just buy some shares together, they'll bunch it together, they'll make it as a product that is one unit of this mutual fund. Open-ended means they keep on selling any number of these mutual funds they want. Closed-ended means they will set a limit. That means these fund units, will sell only a limited number of them, say 10,000 units. Beyond that, we will not sell it. That means if anybody wants to buy after that, they cannot buy it directly from the company. They have to buy it only from people who have already bought this 10,000 funds, right? So that is why it is closed-ended. So it will have more demand in the secondary market. Closed one, because they cannot get it directly from the company, they will buy it from the secondary market. That is why they are traded in the secondary market, while open ones are not even traded, because people will directly go to the company anyway. So that is the difference between open-ended and closed-ended mutual funds. So same thing is given as explanation. This is basically a factual question. There's no concept much, but if you have read it, you can answer it. Otherwise, yeah. So India International Exchange is India's first international stock exchange, opened in Gift City, Gujarat. It is wholly owned subsidiary of which of the following stock exchange? What is the answer for this? BSE. So basically, Bombay Stock Exchange owns this, INX, India International Exchange in Gift City. It is a subsidiary of Bombay Stock Exchange. Wholly owned in the sense all the shares of this particular exchange. All the shares means if it is a company, the company's shares are held by BSc. That's it. So Gift City, you read about it a bit because it is an important aspect of economy. I think it functions around 22 hours a day or something, and you can do currency trading. You can buy from other, Nasdaq and other exchanges are there in other countries. You can buy units of Nasdaq. Just like other countries now, they buy directly Nifty and Sensex from India. We can buy from, say, other countries also, from this Gift City, that exchange in Gift City. Next question. SEBI regulates which among the following in India? What is the function of SEBI? Correct, that is partially correct, because it is not only protecting the interest of investors, all stakeholders' interests should be protected. Even the company's interests are protected. Mediators are there whose job is like broking. Their interest is also protected. All stakeholders' interests will be protected. So it will regulate which among the following? Stock exchanges, it will obviously regulate. Stock brokers also it will regulate. Merchant bankers, whether it will regulate or not will be the question. But if 1 and 2 you know, you can eliminate 2. Either B or D you have to answer. SEBI will regulate any institution which deals with, trading, whatever, something like that. Even if it is a bank, merchant bankers basically they underwrite and they sell the shares of other companies to someone else. So because their job is that, to that extent of their job, they'll be regulated by SEBI. Remaining banking aspect of their job will be regulated by who? RBI. So there is dual regulation on merchant banks on based on what their job role is. So all 3 are regulated by SEBI. So we are coming to treasury bills. What are treasury bills? Treasury bills are a type of government securities. They are short-term government securities. Government security in general is used as a term for longer term, like more than 1 year if a security is being sold to someone, then it is called government securities. Otherwise, they are called treasury bills. There are 91-day treasury bills, 182-day, 364-day treasury bills. For temporary mismatches in liquidity, if government wants temporary money for the next 90 days, they sell treasury bills, they get some money. Who can issue these treasury bills? RBI. On behalf of who? RBI cannot do it by itself. Government has to authorize. Which government will authorize? Only central government can issue treasury bills. Correct. Only central government can issue treasury bills. State government can issue government securities of longer term, but short term, treasury bills cannot be issued by state governments. Only central government issues treasury bills. For state governments, even center is there where they can borrow some money from center also. So there is, because of that, and also to ensure fiscal prudence, that means some control should be there on how much money is borrowed and spent. Because of that reason, they have not given the power to state governments to borrow. Otherwise, if there is, imagine there is an election in 90 days, they'll buy 180-day treasury bills and they'll introduce populist schemes, all these things, right? So this is one aspect of why there are multiple reasons why state governments are not allowed. This can be considered as one. So maturity less than 1 year is called treasury bill. More than 1 year in general is called government securities. Broadly, all are government securities only, but the terminology used is like that. Next question. Sovereign wealth fund. So what is a sovereign wealth fund? A government using the resources of the country will invest in a particular project, or even it is not necessarily from the same country. India has this NIIF as sovereign wealth fund, and we are inviting investment from other countries. I think UAE has pledged some $70 billion into India's sovereign wealth fund, NIIF, right? So basically it is a fund created for investment into the economy. If it will be a pool of money, if imagine India identifies some natural resource, we sell that to other countries, we get a lot of lump sum amount of money, we can put it into it, and the money used from it will be professionally managed. Like we focus on particular highways and railways and infrastructure projects, something like that. It will not be politically influenced. That is why, because NIF now is professionally managed, we can trust that at least some rational, economically rational decisions will be taken. That is one of the advantage of having a sovereign wealth fund. Every country has sovereign wealth funds like this. Imagine, say, compared to, imagine Saudi Arabia. Sovereign wealth fund of Saudi Arabia, what they're trying to do is they're trying to reduce their dependence on oil. As of now, it is completely oil dependent economy. In future, because of renewable energy, climate change, other things, oil will become useless for them, even if it is there. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to focus on, say, tourism and other aspects, whatever. They're trying to build up their economy on those aspects. That is the function of the sovereign wealth fund there. In India, most important aspect for us is infrastructure. In the next 2 decades, we need around $1.5 trillion to build our infrastructure. For that, we are focusing our own funds, and also we are trying to bring funds from elsewhere, like other countries also. So NIF is India's first sovereign wealth fund. Maybe in future we'll create more also. Next question. Headcount ratio. Who can tell me what is headcount ratio? Correct. But what is the exact meaning of headcount ratio? Number of people below poverty line divided by total number of population. That is basically, it will give like a percentage of how many are poor among the total population. That is called headcount ratio. In India, depending upon what factor you take as poverty, it will differ. Tendulkar committee has given, Suresh Tendulkar has given 22.5% is headcount ratio in India. Rangarajan committee has given 29.5%. So depending upon the factor, there is a difference in what is headcount ratio. Next question. Consider the following about multidimensional poverty index. Who releases multidimensional poverty index? Correct. Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative is the organization which releases. It's not World Bank. It is developed by Amartya Sen and Mahbubul Haq. Is it correct? No. What did they develop? HDA. Correct. So a person is considered multidimensionally poor if he is deprived in 1/3 of the weighted indicators. This you cannot guess it anyway. If you have studied that part, then only you can answer that. This is correct. So you can see what are the 10 indicators here. Child mortality and nutrition is one. I mean, years of schooling enrollment are also there. That is education. Health and education are major things. Second thing is living standard. Under living standard, they, in multidimensional, they will take a lot of things, even electricity, cooking fuel. The type of flooring is also considered. If it is like a red oxide flooring, then lower score is given. Assets like if they have a mobile phone, they have a bike, other things like that also is considered. So basically, if you take multidimensional poverty index, more than 50-70% of India will be under poverty line, because a lot of people don't own assets like, say, a bike. Our flooring is not always marble or granite, right? So the kind of living standards that they are talking about is very high. 364 billion. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think that is a true picture of India. But as per government statistics, we could cite the same thing. Consider the following statements with regard to employment in India. So this is basically a trend type of question. These questions usually they're asked from either economic survey, some government reports. They would have given some graphs, some analysis of trends. Such questions are common in prelims. You could take trends from economic survey. Hardly 5 to 6 trends they would have mentioned in the whole economic survey. You could write down at one point. This is a trend from actually 12th 5-year plan document. This is about, in general, employment. Illiterates have the lowest rate of unemployment, and the rate of unemployment tends to rise with every level of education. That means if some person is an illiterate, it's very easy to get a job. as the level of education is going up, it is becoming more and more difficult to get a job. This trend is true or false? True. Because underemployment is a major issue. We have seen last year and before that, Niti Aayog also mentioned underemployment is a major issue in India. Unemployment is highest in the age group 15 to 29 year age. This is also true. So 12th five-year plan document had mentioned this. Recently, they have also, before this 3-year action agenda started, they released a assessment of 12th five-year plan, how it went. You could read a summary of that. Each chapter will have a summary in the end. Yeah. So the trend has not changed much. It is similar even now. Consider the following about statements about employment elasticity. What is the meaning of employment elasticity? Elasticity is a concept in economics which tries to link two concepts. For instance, employment elasticity talks about if 1% increase in GDP growth happens, how much increase in employment happens. This is employment elasticity. Imagine demand elasticity, just to understand what is elasticity. Imagine demand elasticity of a product, particular product A. If price increases, say by 10 rupees, 1 rupee, how much does demand reduce? In general, if price increases, demand reduces. Consider a tablet. Because it is life-saving drug, demand will not reduce even if you increase the price. So elasticity is low here because it is not directly impacting the demand. Imagine, say, a food item. If you coffee price, if it increases by 1 rupee, demand will reduce because they'll go for tea or something else because it is not necessary. So elasticity is high for a product like coffee, but it is low for a product like a medicine. Here, when we are talking about employment elasticity, with 1% increase in GDP, how much increase in employment has happened is employment elasticity. It should ideally, with every percent increase in GDP, employment should also increase. But India has seen jobless growth is, in general, we have seen everywhere. That means employment elasticity is high or low? Low. That means one factor is not adequately impacting the other factor here. That is growth with respect to employment. That is elasticity. India witnessed high employment elasticity during 2004 to 2010. That is wrong because it was low. In India, agriculture is one of the sectors with highest employment elasticity, while its lowest is for construction sector. Highest elasticity is in the sense if growth increases, employment in agriculture increases. Is it true or false? Employment in agriculture is changing since last 10, 20 years or not? It is changing very little. The growth is very high, but the change in employment in agriculture is very little. Even now, more than 55% of population are dependent on agriculture, which gives GDP, contribution to GDP is how much? 17, 18% only. So that means the people who are dependent on agriculture are still dependent on agriculture and not much is changing in agriculture, even though growth rates have soared. From 80s where 3.5 percentage growth was common. In 90s it was 6%. Now we have come to 8%, 9% also we touched in 2009. Now also around 7% we have, right? So still the dependence on agriculture is similar. That means the employment in agriculture is not changing much. So elasticity, that statement is also wrong. Agriculture is one of the sectors with highest employment elasticity, means with increasing growth, employment in agriculture should have increased. It has not increased, neither has it reduced. Over a period of time it has reduced very little. Yeah. So that factor is also there. States like Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra witnessed positive employment elasticity. This statement, I mean, it is just some made up statement. There is no trend where it is not given in even the solution. So yeah. So construction sector, right? So yeah. So that means what? If growth increases in construction sector, employment should increase. So that is actually true, because if growth increases, construction sector will improve. More floor space, more offices and more residential houses will be there. And construction sector, that statement would have been true But for that part where agriculture is there, if agriculture is taken out from that statement, then that statement would have been true. Oh, lowest, okay, then yeah, it is false. Okay, so none of these statements are true. You understood the concept of elasticity, right? Anybody has any question on elasticity? Correct. So actually, possibly it is true, but there is no evidence that we can show that it is true. So if a question like this is given, I'd probably say positive employment elasticity was there in Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra, but in this question, whatever they have given, it is just a made up option. No report has given this as a trend. Because of that, we cannot say. In exam, most people will say this is correct, but 3 only as a statement is not there, so they'll go for none of them. Correct. So there is a possibility that there is more elasticity there. We have not recorded it anywhere, so we cannot say. If only 3 only statement was there, then it is fair that we'll mark that 3 only is not wrong. So I match the following question. It's not sequenced properly. Jail cost of living was given by who? This is actually a poverty basis of poverty estimation. Dadabhai Naoroji gave the concept of jail cost of living. Basically, if a person is living in jail, how much money would it cost him for him to survive monthly? 3 times food, clothing, and other basic necessities, whatever are there, that he considered as jail cost of living. That was given by Dadabhai Naoroji long ago. It was like around a century ago. Another concept is calorie consumption. This was given by Y.K. Alag. It was in 1979. Alag Committee on Poverty gave calorie consumption. They gave 2400 calories per month and per day is suitable for rural areas, 2100 for urban areas because manual work is lower in urban areas. So below that was considered as poverty. So above that was not non-poverty, above poverty. Then another thing was cost of living. So that was Suresh Tendulkar. Suresh Tendulkar not only considered calorie estimates, he considered other aspects are also there. Now we have moved on from say basic living to say dignified living under Article 21. So to ensure dignity, there should be nutrition, health, education, and other aspects also for a person. Because of that, our concept of poverty has also changed. Suresh Tendulkar has given other aspects also. All these things are considered. Based on this, the estimate, like I said, 22.5% of India's population is poor. Yeah, some differences are there between Rangarajan and Tendulkar. Some specific differences are there. One difference is that Rangarajan took mixed reference period. For clothes, he did not take monthly expenses, only once in 6 months or something people buy, right? So such methodological differences are there. Even considering that other things were also, along with this, other things were added by Rangarajan as basic necessities. Because of this, more number of people came under poverty. So same explanation is given. Consider the following statements with regard to GSTN. What is GSTN? GSTN is created to make sure that IT infrastructure for GST will function properly, because there should be a common backbone for GST to function throughout the country. That means a GST invoice is created somewhere here. The whole database, everybody, all the officers throughout the country who are referring to it should be able to see that. Means how much GST is being paid throughout the country. So it is basically like a software which will manage the whole GST operations throughout India. GSTN. GSTN is also the name given to the institution which manages or created this software and manages this software. So it is a non-profit. It is a non-profit created under Companies Act only to provide IT infrastructure and services to central and state governments, taxpayers, all services whatever are necessary. For example, if you have a shop, you want to register to GST, you will go to GST website and register. If you have to pay tax, you can go there and pay also. Government of India holds 51% stake in GSTN. Is this true or false? Now the proposal, cabinet has approved a proposal saying that we'll completely take it over, but it has not been done yet. As of now, it is 49%, but I think soon it will be acquired. Why is it being acquired completely? That is one aspect. Second thing is this data has privacy implications, and in which judgment privacy is considered as? Puttaswamy judgment, privacy was considered to be a part of dignified life under Article 21. Because of this reason, it has implications on privacy, though they are now acquiring it under complete government control. Which of the following taxes is exclusively and totally assigned to the central government by the Constitution? So, what is estate tax? It is basically tax on land. Land is state subject or central? State subject. So, it is going to state. Sales tax and VAT will go to state. Taxes on railway fares and freights. This is actually a trap here because people will consider railway as a central subject, and because of this, it will probably go to union. But there is no such tax mentioned in the Constitution either. Corporate tax is there. That will go to who? It will go to a divisible, it will go to the center first, and central divisible pool will be there. Finance Commission will decide how much of this share should go to states. So corporate tax is completely assigned to the center first. Inheritance. I'm not sure about inheritance. In India, there is no inheritance tax as far as I know. So estate tax in India means only this much land. No, corporate tax is a direct tax on corporates, just like income tax on individuals. For corporations, it is also called corporation tax actually. That means for companies, the profit on companies will be taxed up to, as of now in India, it is around 30%. So that is like a income tax on individuals, corporate tax on companies. Estate duty in respect of agricultural land is under state government. Actually, state will name it as a different, every state will have a different name for it, so sometimes we'll get confused in what they're asking. So, but it is basically land revenue, land tax only. In India, deficit financing is used for raising resources for. So, here there is a concept you have to understand. What is deficit financing? So, see, deficit financing, theoretically, earlier it meant how do we finance the deficit? Basically, there is a fiscal deficit. That means imagine in an economy we are spending 100 rupees a year. This year we have spent 100 rupees, but we raised resources through taxation and loans up to taxation and other income from say PSUs, other things, up to only 97 rupees. The 3 rupees is the deficit. For that, what we do is we have to finance this deficit. That means we take a loan to finance this deficit. This is the international definition of deficit financing, and for the most part, I'd say 50s, 60s, this was the meaning of deficit financing. But now the meaning of the term has changed. Whenever the deficit financing is used now, it means something else. It means government will print money to finance this deficit. It is not just by any means we finance that 3% deficit, or say all means considered are not coming under deficit financing now. In India specifically, deficit financing, whenever you find the term, it means printing of money. In this question, actually, it is a broad question. Either way, the answer is same, that is economic development, but any definition you take. But I'm just giving you the meaning of the term as of now is deficit financing is printing of money. In 90s, 80s and 90s, government used to print money. That means budget was say around 10 lakh crores. They used to raise only about say 9.5 lakh crores. Other 50,000 crores they just printed, and this led to higher inflation and other things. After 98, they've done away with this practice of printing more money. Now the practice is ways and means advances. Ways and means, the mechanism of ways and means basically means if the 3% deficit is there, they can take loan from anywhere, but they cannot print more money. If they want to print more money, then they have to pay interest of bank rate. Bank rate is usually a penalty rate. It will be very high. It is, I think, 1% more than repo rate or something. So government has to pay this penalty to RBI if they want RBI to print money. So ways and means basically means they'll usually take money from say market. They sell bonds to raise that 3%, or they say take from other World Bank and other international institutions. Now they are not going to print money. As far as possible, they do this. But if no other option is there, they can go for printing money and paying penalty for it. This is to ensure fiscal prudence. After FRBM Act came, they have to make sure that they reduce the amount of expenditure. Because of that, they brought this ways and means advances instead of deficit financing. You understood the concept of a deficit financing everywhere in the world is basically how we finance the deficit. It could be by taking loan. Even printing money was one aspect. But in India, basically deficit financing has taken a new definition, that is printing of money for the financing the deficit. Now, if a question comes where deficit financing is mentioned, you assume that it is printing money, because most of the times they are asking only in that type of context what deficit financing is. So usually, why do they print money for? Either it is if they imagine redemption of public debt, if they print more money and give this money back to people, it will lead to high inflation. So they don't do that for this. Adjusting the balance of payments. Can we print rupee and adjust balance of payments? No, we need dollar or some other foreign currency for that. So this is also gone. Reducing foreign debt also, we have to pay back in other currency. So we cannot print money for that. So it should be economic development. We can print money, we can invest it in infrastructure project. We hope that the infrastructure project gets completed soon, and it will lead to some positive impact on the economy. Okay. Where is the remote? Okay. Can you ask them to switch on the AC? So I understood the concept of deficit financing. Right? So here the explanation they have given is basically how we finance the deficit, broad definition of deficit finance. Next question. Service tax. Which one was indirect? What is the difference between direct and indirect tax? Correct. So now look at it. Service tax. If imagine a doctor provides services, a doctor will be charged for his services, but the doctor will shift this cost to the patient. So they will say 500 rupees consultation fee plus service tax you have to pay for me, and he will pay to the government. So burden is shifted in one. Second, capital gains tax. That means you buy a land and you sell it and you get some money out of it, and basically directly it will fall on the person who is selling that land only. What about securities transaction tax? It is theoretically it is direct tax, but in India practically it is actually both. It is levied on both the buyer and the seller. So if that option is there, you try to tick both, but otherwise it is direct tax. So what is the answer for this? One only. Other two are direct taxes. So this is a simple question. Which all of these can you link to alleviating poverty or eradicating poverty? Employment will reduce poverty or not? It will reduce. Subsidy in food grains, it will reduce. Expansion of social security net will also reduce because expenditure on other health and other things will reduce. Providing urban amenities in rural areas also will provide other opportunities to reduce poverty. Slum upgradation also will reduce the sanitation and other issues which are leading to health issues, which are again in turn lead to poverty. Because of this, all of them are linked to poverty. So answer will be what? D. Interest on public debt is a part of. So this question is a little tricky. Here you have to understand the meaning of what is a transfer payment. See, in an economy, two types of transactions can happen. One is either buying, selling. That means you buy or sell a product or service. If you are buying, imagine a chocolate, you pay for it and you get the chocolate in turn. So what is transfer payment? Transfer payment means there is no buying or selling, you're just giving money. Imagine you're working somewhere in Delhi, you're sending your money to your family in Bangalore. That means there is a transfer of money. This is called transfer payment. So that means there is no buying, there is no product or service sold here. What is the meaning of national income, or say what GDP is one measure of national income? Here we are considering the products and services created in an economy. And the money paid for these products and services is a proxy. Okay, this much of products and services are created. We are considering that to be a proxy for products and services. So transfer payments can be a part of that or not. Because they don't reflect a product or service created, we cannot consider transfer payments to be a part of national income. You understood this? So what is national income? All the products produced in the economy, all the services sold in the economy together in terms of money. What is the value of them? Together we consider it as national income. That is GDP is one measure of national income. So, but transfer payment is not reflecting any product or service created. Because of that, it is not a part of national income. So C is eliminated. National income. Interest on public debt. Interest on public debt is actually a transfer payment by government. So because no product or service is being sold by the lender to government, they are just transferring this money every month or whenever they want, they'll send it. So it is a transfer payment by government. Why is it not by enterprises? Because it is a loan given by people to government, and because of that, government gives interest to the people who bought those bonds. Interest payment by households. So households have given loan to the government, so they don't need to pay interest. Government is paying interest. So answer is what? Subsidy is also, subsidy is also a transfer payment because there is no product or service created. So subsidy amount cannot be considered as a part of GDP. So answer is B, transfer payment by government. Interest on public debt is transfer payment on government. So public debt, how do they take public debt? They sell treasury bills or government bonds to households, people, corporations, whatever, whoever buys it, they get some money out of it. They invest that money, they build whatever infrastructure, etc. And for that loan they have taken, that is the bond holders will be getting interest. And this is a transfer payment because there is no product or service created. You understood this? So the same thing is given here. Consider the following statements about Rangarajan Committee report on poverty. It says approximately 3 out of 10 persons are poor. That is 29.5% is around that much only. It uses nourishment, clothing, housing, education in determining poverty line. All these things are part of it. More things are there, but it is not saying only. If it said only, then we should have thought about it and thought that, okay, they have narrowed it down, maybe other things are there. But other things may be there, may not be there, it still can be correct. So because of that reason, C will be the answer. Which of the following statements are true with respect to difference between core and headline inflation? What is core and headline inflation? Correct. Inflation is the increase in general price level of goods and services in the economy. That means all prices will increase overall. That is called inflation. But some prices are there like food and fuel, like she said, which are very volatile. That means they change according to the vagaries of the monsoon, food will change. some international market trends, crude oil price will change. But the problem is because we don't control them, we cannot consider them as a part of our policy. So if we consider headline inflation as a part of our policy, how to control that headline inflation, and we create policies based on that, because there are factors which we cannot control. Whatever policy we make, it may not be successful. So what we do is we eliminate those two things which are not under our control. We take core inflation in excluding food and fuel, which other factors are leading to inflation. Imagine more money is there in the economy with people, because if there is demand side inflation. So that we try to control by reducing the amount of money supply in the economy. That is why we need the concept of core inflation. That means the factors that we can control using monetary and fiscal policy will be a part of this core inflation. Headline inflation will measure overall inflation. Core inflation will exclude food and fuel from it. Food and fuel is just an example. Whatever volatile things are there, in general, 90% of the time it is only food and fuel. Yeah, as of now, CPI has both WPI and CPI has headline CPI, headline WPI, core CPI, core WPI are all there. Indicators are there. Uh, Headline is used as a measure, but core inflation will be used for policy decisions. So, MPC, yeah, they will use mostly headline inflation only. For exactly measuring the inflation, headline inflation, for all policy purposes, mostly core inflation is used. See, there is CPI combined headline inflation is considered when inflation is being targeted. So for RBI's monetary policy decision, this CPI combined means, I think there is industrial workers and one more thing is there. Merged together, headline inflation is considered. Yeah, since inflation targeting concept has come, we are taking headline inflation. Before that, core inflation was taken, because inflation at any cost has to be targeted, even it is because of other factors like crude oil, but still we have to reduce it by controlling it on somewhere else. So because of inflation targeting as being the primary policy for RBI, after Ujjit Patel committee recommendation, inflation targeting is a major target. Since then, we are focusing on this headline inflation. This is recent changes with respect to WPA. So this question also, it is one of the difficult questions. So only if you know the answer, you can answer it. Otherwise, it's a difficult question. So new definition of WPA does not include taxes in order to remove the impact of fiscal policy. So if you include taxes in WPI, what happens is distorted image is created. All taxes are also included in the cost of the product. Because of this, what happens is we cannot identify whether the product cost increased because of increased taxes or change in taxation, or whether real prices are increasing or decreasing. Because of that, we have removed the tax from WPA. Base year of all India WPA has been revised from 4.5 to 11.12. So why do we need to keep revising the base year? Correct. So imagine in 2004-5 people were using floppy disk CDs and everything. Now nobody even buys them. They are not there in the market. But that will be there in the basket. So if we change the base year only, then we'll come to know that some new things have come up and some old things have gone. So to keep it relevant to the existing market trends and conditions, they have to keep revising the base year. The base year should not be a recession year or bumper productivity type of year. It should be a normal year. Otherwise, if we take some deviation year as base year, it will mess up our calculations about the present trend also. That is why they have taken 11-12. If you take 12-13, in 2012 there was a major recession in the world. So at that point of time, we cannot take it as a base year. So a new WPA food index has been compiled to help effective monitoring of food inflation. This is also correct. A new one has been created, food index. This is about India joining various international regimes. Instead of naming the international regimes, they have just given their features. You should know two pieces of information for this. One, what each of these, Wassenaar Agreement, Australia group are there, what each of them does, and second piece of information is which one India is a part of. Only if you know those two things, you can answer this question. So, simple question here would be directly giving Wassenaar Agreement, Australia group, MTCR, etc. So, if you know these two things, it is a simple question. So, weapons of mass destruction are a part of what? MTCR, Missile Technology Control Regime. So, along with the dual use technologies which you can use for space and missiles, along with WMD, it is a part of MTCR, Missile Technology Control Regime. Second one is transparency in transfer of conventional arms and dual use goods. Wassenaar Agreement. So, conventional arms, and what are conventional arms? Like AK-47 is a conventional arm. So, that is Wassenaar Agreement. It actively involves in restricting exports of chemicals and biological weapons. This is Australia group. It is a member of treaty which aims to control proliferation of nuclear weapons. Correct. That is nuclear supplier group, which India is not a part of. The other things India is already a part of. So answer is D. So these four are important because India has already joined 3, and fourth one India is pushing for. So you read a little bit about what some 3 or 4 points about each, which is correct with respect to Residex. Residex is used to track movement of housing prices across different cities. So far it is correct, but it is released by Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Is correct or not? It is wrong. Here also same type of trap is there. First 2 lines people read and then the attention is gone, and it is released by NHB, National Housing Board, not Ministry. The base year of the index is recently changed to 1213. This part is correct. So answer is B. What is the meaning of housing price index? How housing prices have changed over the years. Imagine you take Bangalore. What is the average housing price in Bangalore and how it has changed, how rents have changed, how in a particular area housing prices have changed, what factors have led to this change. So based on these inputs, we can make policy, or it will be a good indicator for everyone. If people want to build a rental housing, they'll just look at where the prices are going up quickly, something like that. So it is helps buyers, sellers to check, compare prices before entering a transaction also, and also regulators to better tax, etc. Indirect subsidies are provided in terms of. So what is the difference between direct and indirect subsidy? We saw direct indirect tax. This is between direct indirect subsidy. What is it? It is similar. So direct subsidy is like if we give a cash to a person or some benefit is given to that person. That is a direct subsidy. Indirect subsidy is we are giving it through something else. That means we are trying to change the behavior of this person in some direction. That is an indirect subsidy. For instance, imagine tax rebate. Like there is a tax rebate if you invest, if you put up an industry in Northeast, there is a tax rebate. That means you are trying to influence the behavior of investors to bring their money to the Northeast. So that is the indirect subsidy. Similarly, premium free insurance. That means we are trying to incentivize the insurance as a positive behavior. That means buying insurance as a positive behavior. Tax breaks on particular things, we give tax breaks, saying if you focus on, say, food processing industry, will give you tax breaks. That means there also we are trying to influence behavior. Interest free loans, no interest at all, in the sense actually it is, we are not basically we are trying to help them, not in it is not basically a primary objective is not only influencing their behavior, somehow giving them some monetary help. Instead of, if you want to only change their behavior, we could have just given interest subvention or reduced the interest rate. But we are completely removing the interest rate, means we are actually trying to provide some monetary help. Similarly, cash grants, direct. So these 2 are direct and these 3 are indirect. Next question. Indian farmers. So this question you have read, right? That means Indian farmers are not getting subsidy from government as much compared to, say, farmers in other countries who are getting a lot. So which are the resultant outcomes? Wow, what do you think is resultant outcome from this? More subsidy to the farmer in foreign country means all three are resultant outcomes, because yeah, I'll explain this. Two questions are there. I'll explain together. Then you'll understand better, I think. This is about see WTO thing is there, right? So some boxes are there in WTO. What is the significance of these boxes? Let us take a particular case, and imagine there is a farmer who wants to grow chili. It is his preference that he wants to grow chili. But what happens is there is MSP announced by the government saying that they'll give say 30 rupees per kg for rice. So what he thinks is, I don't know what the prices of chili will be after 3 months, but I know for a fact that I'll get at least 30 rupees per kg for rice. So he changes this decision to go for rice, and more rice is there in the market by the end of 3 months, and he is getting good remuneration for it. But government buys it, or some other wholesaler buys it, and then it goes to imagine exporter, and then he exports rice to Mexico or somewhere else. Say he exports rice to Vietnam. Vietnam will buy rice from India because it is much cheaper. Because government has subsidized it, we are able to sell it at 35 rupees. But imagine other countries, say USA has not subsidized rice as much. This is hypothetical. And they are selling, even their minimum cost is 40 rupees. So US rice will not be competitive in the international market compared to Indian rice, because India has provided subsidy. Because the supply of rice in the Indian market is very huge, because people have shifted from other crops to rice. The quantity of rice has increased or decreased because of subsidy to rice? It has increased. The quantity has increased. The price has increased or reduced? Price has reduced because government has subsidized. So this is called an amber box subsidy, where it distorts trade. Both quantity and prices are distorted because of this. Next is blue box subsidy. Imagine in the same case, instead of announcing MSP, they will just say, it doesn't matter what crop you grow, we will just give you per hectare 15,000 rupees. Whatever you want, you do with it. It's like an income support. So what he does, he's anyway getting 15,000 rupees. He doesn't think much about which crop. He will just go for chili. This leads to a quantity of rice. What will happen in the end after 3 months? Quantity of rice will not be increased, but the price of the products may still be impacted, because when he sells the chili, it might be lesser than say chili produced in some other country, Mexico, because still he got 15,000 rupees here. Mexican farmer may not have got that 15,000 income support. You understood this point? You didn't understand. So here he is getting 15,000 into his account per hectare, or per hectare of land. Because of that, he may think that, okay, I have got 15,000. If I take that into account and sell it at a cheaper price, I may sell it much easier, and he sells it in the international market. Still, it is a little trade distorting compared to earlier scenario. It is not much, but still the price is distorted. Quantity may not be distorted. That is called blue box subsidy. It is more tolerable compared to amber box subsidies. Green box subsidy is non-trade distorting completely. That means instead of giving 15,000 rupees per hectare, if government starts focusing on R&D, giving that money to say extension services, buying tractors and renting them to farmers, something like that, which actually increases productivity or something else, instead of distorting their decisions, then it is green box subsidy. So WTO is completely in favor of green box subsidy, partially in favor of blue box subsidy. So far they are focusing only on eliminating amber box subsidy, so that world trade is not distorted. You understood the concept behind these boxes, right? So when you look at the question here, problem is you and US are giving a lot of subsidies compared to India. They are not giving it in amber box. Because of this, they put pressure on developing countries who are giving amber box subsidies, saying yours are more trade distorting, although they are giving more subsidies in general. Theirs are in blue box. Although less trade distorting, the magnitude of subsidies are very high. So if you look at the options, all of them are true. Developed countries spend a lot to support agriculture, leads to surplus production, excess is exported at low prices, because it comes to India also. You know, dairy farmers in New Zealand, European Union, they produce dairy, lot more than India. Although they are very small, New Zealand is a very small country. They produce as much, almost as much milk as India. So because they will get a lot of subsidy and it is all mechanized there. Cheaper imports depress local prices. If we sign an FTA with European Union, Indian dairy industry will be wiped out because their milk will be around 5 rupees per liter. In India, it is around 40 rupees per liter because it is basically a cooperative sector in India and not mechanized type of sector. So that's why we are not signing FTA with European Union. That is one of the major reasons. So cheaper imports depress local prices is true. It hurts a lot for countries like India where more than 90% are subsistence farmers. Here, if we are importing mechanized and subsidized goods from other countries, our farmers cannot compete with, say, subsidies given there. So that is also true.